Next week, President Biden will visit Tulsa, Oklahoma to mark the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa Race Massacre. On May 31st, 1921, a violent white mob destroyed one of the most prosperous black communities in America, Greenwood. They devastated the area known as Black Wall Street, leveling 35 city blocks, destroying 191 businesses, and forcing out nearly 10,000 black residents. Experts estimate as many as 300 people were killed. No one was ever punished for their deaths. None of the victims were fairly compensated. In fact, there are some Americans who have never even heard of it. Now, a century later, residents of Tulsa are working to raise awareness and recognize the victims and their survivors. Joining me now from Tulsa is NBC News correspondent and host of the Into America podcast, Trymaine Lee. Trymaine, good to have you with us. You're live at the Black Wall Street Memorial March. What are you seeing and hearing from people there today?
Thanks so much for having me, Eamon. As you mentioned, we're here in the heart of Greenwood, which had been one of the wealthiest black communities in this country. There was a 12-mile stretch of Greenwood Avenue where we stand right now, where there were hundreds of black-owned businesses. And then over the course of 2 days, May 31st and June 1st, being bombed from the sky, houses being burned, businesses being destroyed. In a blink, they lost everything. But even after those events, they tried to build back. And over the course of the last 100 years, they've tried to time and again recoup some of what was lost and what was stolen. And today, talking to folks from Tulsa and all around the country, they say they wanted to be here to stand with those who suffered so much, the descendants and those who came from victims and survivors who survived the 1921 race massacre. It's not a celebratory sense here, but definitely a commemoration. There are different stages set up with musicians playing. There have been a number of banquets and brunches. As you mentioned, we marched from about a mile and a half north down to this the center of Greenwood, and now folks are gathering. You have vendors up and down the block, folks who are selling books and T-shirts and food, and there really is a feeling of true community, Eamon, and fellowship and family. But this community that has gone through so much, here they are, on the eve of this centennial of that terrible, terrible day, with a great sense of resolve and reflection and some resilience. But also, Eamon, quite frankly, a lot of pain and trauma. So where folks weren't able to inherit the wealth that was being generated because it was all destroyed, they did inherit a sense of great pain and a burden. But there are still folks fighting for reparations, fighting, on one hand, just for this story to be told. There were efforts by the forces that be in this community to bury the story and bury the truth, even though folks in this community know exactly what happened. So it's been a long time coming, Eamon, but here we are 100 years later.
All right, and we'll see what President Biden has to say when he goes there to mark that. Trymaine Lee, thank you for putting the spotlight on that for us. And to hear more from the survivors and the descendants, make sure to watch Blood on Black Wall Street Sunday at 10 p.m. Eastern on MSNBC or on demand on Peacock. You do not want to miss that.